So something new today, what you should learn, copy, and what you should avoid when you're looking at tour professional golf swings. And we're starting with a beauty today. It's Rory McIlroy. So, welcome back and welcome to a new series. What can you learn from a tour professional? What I'm going to be looking here is analysing different golf swings, looking at what we can learn from them, what we should be mimicking and copying, and what we ought to avoid really. Don't forget that these guys have been playing since a very early age, and a lot of the stuff they're doing totally intuitively. Today we've got a real belter. It's Rory McIlroy. Is probably maybe one of the greatest swings in golf at this time or any time, and I don't think there's anyone better to start the series with. And to do the series, I'm basically snatching kind of videos from the internet of these guys. This one is from a guy called Terry Rolls. Thank you very much, Terry. I hope you don't mind me using the video. I'll leave a link below so that people can find your channel. But the idea here is to basically be able to have a look at him from the front and from the side and actually get an idea of what he's doing during this swing and what we could also learn from this golf swing and what we maybe ought to avoid because it's just simply not possible or maybe might not actually help our game at all. Let's get started. So the start of Rory's backswing is, for me, is perfection. It's simplicity itself. Hips and legs are staying still, arms are staying passive, and he's basically just turning his chest and shoulders to the right and allowing the arms and club to be carried to the right. And he's doing this by basically getting the left shoulder down on plane, which will move the club back on plane. So in the second phase of the golf swing, you can see again perfection. The hips start to turn, the bum stays back, the shoulders continue in the same plane as the shaft had, and the right arm and hand fold, pulling the left arm up across the chest, basically also parallel to the original shaft plane. Axis stays totally still. The start of Rory's downswing shows his signature move, this kind of squat into the downswing. I mean, it looks tremendous. Why does he do it? Well, I think he does it totally intuitively. And what he's actually doing is kind of loading his feet. He's getting down into the ground, ready to kind of jump up and get some club head speed moving. Is this something you should be doing? No, I don't really think so. I think this is going to make life more difficult because you're going to lose your axis. You're going to get too close to the golf ball. There's a great chance of you actually hitting the ground before the golf ball. Something you definitely want to look at, though, is you've got to see that at the point where he starts his downswing, his right knee is actually bending. He's most certainly not pushing off to start the downswing. He's definitely not transferring his weight immediately at the start of the downswing. On the contrary, this squat is actually keeping his butt away from the golf ball and helping him to actually get the left hip back where it started. By the time he gets down to kind of hip height, he's back with his axis where it started. So he's basically come back up into his original axis position in comparison to the golf ball. He's got his arms down, the club is on plane, his bum is back, his left hip is actually turned further back than his right hip, and he's gone into this kind of Quasimodo position. As his head's down, his back is arched, and this is helping him to basically get his bum moving backwards without losing the distance to the golf ball. So although he's come up, once he gets to the original position, his axis stays the same position, his bum keeps moving back and around, and he actually arches his back to be able to hold the distance from the golf ball. It's an absolutely fabulous position, but if you don't have enough mobility in your thoracic spine, you're never going to do it. As he releases the club through the golf ball, his arms are straightening, his hips have stopped rotating, and his legs are straightening. This straightening of the legs is basically giving him the power, using the ground and giving him a far bigger resistance against the swing and the catapult effect that he's created in the release. Is this something you want to be doing? I think the majority of you, if you start really jumping with your legs, you're going to jump up away from the golf ball. Again, you've got to have the mobility in the thoracic spine to be able to keep the distance from the golf ball. So maybe something you don't want to be trying. However, if you can get to this position, keeping your knees bent and allow your arms to straighten through the golf ball, that would be fabulous. Also, don't forget that you can only get your arms straight through the golf ball if your upper body and your shoulders have turned far enough. And you're only going to be taking the golf ball with you if you're keeping your shoulders in plane. And you can see that his shoulders are in perfect plane, totally parallel to the original shaft plane. In the front view, you can see how he starts the backswing with his upper body again rotating, resisting with the lower body, keeping the club in plane. The weight or the pressure is on the inside of his right foot. You see there's no great lateral movement going on here. The axis is staying stable. If you can copy this, it's a great start to a golf swing. Chest height, there's still not been massive amount of weight transfer despite his left hip rotating and his arms being pulled up. You can see that his left arm is pretty straight, which is helping him to keep the width that he wants in his backswing with the driver, and that's restricting the right arm from bending very much in the backswing. This isn't always a great thing for an amateur golfer. Sometimes you're going to need a little bit of bend there, and although you'll lose width, you'll actually gain a little bit of club head speed when you come down, because when the left arm straightens, it works as well like a little bit of a release or a catapult effect. At the top of the golf swing, the club is totally parallel to the ground. Whether you're going to get here is very much dependent on how much mobility you have and whether you can actually move enough of your joints around without losing the axis to get there. So not a position that everybody's going to get to or should even be trying to get to in a golf swing. But obviously it gives him the width, it gives him the dynamic, and it gives him a good run up at the golf ball to get enough speed. But he's still getting the club down into that perfect position with his axis the same distance from the ground as it was at the start of the golf swing. The reason that his head is lower at this point in the golf swing is because he's arched his back, which is making his cerebral spine tilt forward and his head droop. Here you see a great visual of the release of the swing, the arms swinging out and straightening towards the target, the left side of his body resisting, and his right foot, you watch the right foot really just coming up at the end of his swing, basically anchoring him until the golf ball has left the ground. There's really hardly anything in Rory's golf swing that you can criticize. But if there is one thing that you definitely don't want to be doing, if you watch his hip movement through the golf ball, you can see that his hip goes to the extension of its rotation, comes back and goes again. And the reason this is most probably that he's got too much mobility in his hip, that the ligaments aren't basically slowing it down before it comes to the end of its rotational ability, and therefore that will be causing an awful lot of stress on the hip joint. And if he's not careful at some stage, he's going to make a doctor very, very rich. I know that he's working now with guys on getting up the muscle power and the support for this left side, but that's most certainly something that Rory is changing in his golf swing. You can see all these muscles that he's putting on. I'm sure that he's doing that really to get more mass, so he doesn't have to get the speed just through basically the hip rotation, but he can actually use mass to create energy, and therefore he can protect his body, so he's playing great golf for the rest. But this golf swing is really a thing of beauty in my opinion. So what can we learn from Rory McIlroy's swing? Well, probably that we should all start golf even earlier in life. It really is a thing of beauty. And if you're looking for a role model, then Rory's probably not a bad place to start. There's hardly anything in his golf swing that I don't like, and the only things I don't like is because I can't really do them, and I don't think you can either. The majority of us just don't have the mobility or the speed to actually do what he does. On the other hand, there's some really great things and things that you want to be copying. Keeping the axis of the golf swing helps him to get his amazing consistency, and using the ground forces correctly helps him to get that speed. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should be going out there and squatting into the golf ball at the start of the downswing, but if you are capable of coordinating that kind of movement, it really can generate more club speed. Most certainly what I love about his golf swing is the way that he keeps the right knee bent so long in the downswing, and that stops him really basically getting too much lateral movement going off, and it keeps his hips and butt away from the golf ball, giving him room to get his right shoulder down and the club on plane through the ball. keeping that shoulder plane is really one of the big tricks I believe in golf. If you can do that, then the golf ball is simply in the way of your golf swing and you can be thinking totally about hitting the target. Rory McIlroy was a great place to start, I think, in this series, and I hope you guys liked it. If there's anybody else you'd like me to analyse and show you the do's and don'ts of their golf swing, then please leave a comment below. If you like the video, as ever, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please subscribe to the channel. It's been great being with you. Look forward to being here soon again. All the best. Cheers.